Liam's new girl was having another one of her episodes, and he had decided, once again, that I was the solution. He slid the divorce agreement across the polished wood of his office desk and said, with a calmness that felt more unsettling than anger, "Sign it." It was all for show, a performance meant to soothe the anxieties of a young woman he was infatuated with. I played my part, clutching the fabric of my skirt under the desk, my knuckles white. I gave a small, quiet nod and, without a word, took the pen and signed my name, Ilara. As I stood up and turned to leave the room, I could hear the familiar, jovial voice of one of his friends floating from behind me. "Your wife is so obedient, Liam. If you'd handed her a marriage certificate instead, you think she'd sign it just as quietly?" E. Liam lit a cigarette, the flick of the lighter sharp in the quiet room. His tone was cheerful, laced with a familiar arrogance. "Want to make a bet?" Their laughter followed, a wave of casual cruelty. They joked that I would be a wreck, that I'd cry for the entire month-long cooling-off period and still show up at the Civil Affairs Bureau to finalize it all, just as he commanded. I stood outside the door, my hand on the cool brass handle, and held my phone, my fingers hovering over the screen. A message had just come in. "Then just marry me, okay?" The reply had been almost instantaneous. I didn't respond yet, just turned off the screen as their voices bled through the heavy door. "All right, I'm in," one of them said. "If she really is that obedient, I'll cover everyone's bar tab for the next month." Liam chuckled, a low, confident sound. "Make it 3 months, she will." Their voices blurred into an indistinct murmur as I hurried down the hallway. It wasn't until I stepped out of the building and into the blinding afternoon sun that the tears I had been holding back finally came, hot and sudden. Liam had fallen for a girl who hadn't even finished university. He had bought her a sprawling luxury apartment in the city's most expensive district, filling it with designer clothes and bags, but she refused to let him get close. She lived in the 360 square meter flat, draped in haute couture worth more than my car, all while insisting, "I will not be a mistress." Liam found her defiance charming, a challenge. This divorce was the third act in his grand play to win her over. The first time, he had posted a collage of 9 photos of the two of us, all smiles and affectionate poses. I hadn't known about Chloe then. I was just happy, genuinely happy, as I hugged him for the camera. I remember feeling a surge of hope, thinking it was a public declaration of our bond. But no matter how many times I refreshed my own feed, I couldn't find the post. It was only later I discovered he had set the privacy settings so that only Chloe could see it. The second time, we had a terrible argument. He left me on a dark street corner, my face streaked with tears, and drove away. A few minutes later, he sent her a photo he must have taken from his car window, a picture of me alone and crying. His message to her read, "See, she's completely broken. I can't just leave her." And this, the third time, he was asking me for a divorce. My phone buzzed again, pulling me from the memory. It was from the same number. "Are you serious, Ilara?" I wiped the tears from my cheeks with the back of my hand and managed a small, watery smile as I typed my reply. "Yes, this afternoon." He really did take me to the Civil Affairs Bureau that day. He was in an excellent mood the entire drive, humming along to the radio. He even asked me where I wanted to go for our upcoming third anniversary. We had grown up together, and this was our third year of marriage. "How about Prague?" he suggested, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "You've been talking about feeding the pigeons in Prague Square since you were 7 years old." When we arrived, he got out of the car, came around to my side, opened the door, and even unbuckled my seatbelt for me, a gesture of chivalry that felt like a slap in the face. He frowned when he saw my swollen, red-rimmed eyes. He gently brushed the corner of my eye with his fingertip. "Why are you crying? I told you, it's just for show. She's just a flighty little thing. I'm just curious to see when she'll finally give in." As he leaned back, something small fell from his jacket pocket and landed on the car seat between us. A box of condoms. He gave a soft, awkward cough and rubbed his nose, offering no explanation. We walked into the government building. Everything went smoothly, clinically. I have a condition, a form of aphasia. When I'm in front of strangers or under immense stress, my voice disappears. I can nod or I can shake my head, but the words get stuck somewhere between my brain and my tongue. "Do you agree to this divorce voluntarily?" the official asked. I nodded. Has your relationship completely broken down? I nodded again. There is a 1 month cooling off period. Please return in a month to finalize the proceedings. Liam took the receipt from the counter. The moment we stepped outside, he took a photo of it, his head bent down as he typed a message. At that exact moment, a message notification lit up my own phone. It was a forwarded message from Chloe. It contained the picture Liam had just taken of the receipt, along with his note. Satisfied? Wash up and wait for me tonight. I clicked on her profile and blocked her number. Another notification popped up almost immediately. It was from a ticket agency, a confirmation of my flight. A moment later, a message on WeChat arrived. Tickets for next month. See you in Paris. That night, I still dreamed of Liam. I dreamed of the boy he used to be, the one who was always so sweet to me. Alara, your eyes are so pretty. Can I just look at them when we talk? Alara, you play the piano so beautifully. Can I come to all your concerts? Alara, I like you the most. When I grow up, I want to marry you. And I had liked him too. We sat next to each other in school, played together in the park after class. Even when my parents died, it had been in the back of the Liam's family car, playing rock, paper, scissors with him on the way home from a family dinner. The two cars had been driving too close together. I saw it happen with my own eyes. A large truck speeding through a red light. Boom! My father, my mother, my older brother, and even the little puppy I had raised since I was a child were all gone in an instant, swallowed by a sea of fire. For a long time after that, I couldn't speak at all. I needed Liam beside me just to fall asleep at night. He was patient. He helped me practice speaking again, reading stories to me late into the night. If anyone at school laughed at me for being mute, he would punch them without a second thought. So, when we got married, it felt natural, inevitable. The day after I received my university diploma, he was sitting on the edge of my bed as the morning sun streamed in. Alara, he said, taking my hand, let's go get another certificate. That was the day we became husband and wife. In my dream, the new house we moved into was filled with red roses. He knelt on the bed and kissed me gently. He had once whispered to me, Alara, we'll be happy like this for the rest of our lives. But when I opened my eyes, the room was dark and silent. Everything had changed. I picked up my phone. Chloe had sent another message from a new number. It was a photo. On a crumpled white bedspread was a smear of bright, unmistakable red. My stomach twisted violently. I rushed into the bathroom and retched, but nothing came up except for burning tears of betrayal. I sank to the cold tile floor, wrapping my arms around my legs, unable to stop shivering. My fingers brushed across the phone screen without purpose. In the crushing stillness of the night, a deep, calm male voice suddenly came through the speaker. Alara? My heart skipped a beat. I fumbled to pick up the call. It was Julian. Julian was someone I had met during my treatment. After 3 years of hospital interventions, my aphasia had improved significantly. I only lost my ability to speak when I was deeply anxious or emotionally overwhelmed. During the 2 years I was married to Liam, life was stable and I had time on my hands, so I joined an online support group for people with similar conditions. My assigned support partner was Julian. For the longest time, I was convinced he was a girl. His profile picture was a simple cartoon of a pink rabbit, and his username was Angel. At first, he barely responded to my messages, but people with aphasia often carry deeper emotional wounds. We may not speak much, but we have a deep longing for someone to understand us. I patiently shared bits and pieces of my life with him through texts, voice notes, photos, and even short videos. Over time, we became close, like old friends who had known each other for years. When I finally heard his voice and realized he was a man, I was so shocked I nearly had a relapse on the spot. Sorry, I had stammered into the phone then. Am I disturbing you? No, not at all, Julian had replied warmly. It's only 9 in the evening here. His speech was smooth and clear now. He had improved a lot too. Tonight was only the second time we'd spoken on the phone since I discovered he was male. After the first time, I had tried to distance myself, embarrassed by my mistake. This call was unexpected. We hadn't spoken in nearly a month. Earlier that day, after Liam handed me the divorce agreement, he had asked what I was doing. I had only been able to mutter one word in reply: divorce. After signing the papers, I stood outside Liam's office, my whole body shaking uncontrollably. I had sent a message to Julian. I think I'm losing everything. No family, no dog, not even Liam. What should I do? He surprised me with his immediate reply. Then just marry me, okay? Laughter had echoed from the room behind me then. Someone joked, Alara? She can't live without Liam. If she really files for divorce, she'll probably cry her way through the entire process at the Civil Affairs Bureau. Liam had sneered. Even if she cries her eyes out, she'll still come crawling back. She's my dog. If I tell her to go east, she won't even think about going west. I stared at the man I had loved for so long through the small gap in the door, wondering when he had become a complete stranger to me. Julian had made me a list of things to do within the month. Aside from the obvious tasks like getting a visa and finding a lawyer, he had even included a list of must-try restaurants. The Chinese food overseas is never quite right, he had written. I smiled at that. Following his list, I ate at one restaurant after another. The crushing loneliness didn't feel quite so heavy anymore. Each day, I ate, I shopped, and I slowly packed my things. On the day I finally moved out of our home, Liam sent me a message. You didn't even call me. Don't you miss me? He was traveling with Chloe, claiming he wanted to show her the world. Moments later, another photo arrived. This place is beautiful. Should I bring you here for our 3rd anniversary? I wanted to block him, just as I had blocked Chloe, but I held back. I still needed to meet him one last time to get the divorce finalized. In the weeks that followed, I sold my jewelry and designer bags. I went to the hospital for a full checkup, confirming that I was not pregnant, and I quietly sorted through all the financial assets Liam had once asked me to hold in my name. The night before our final appointment, Liam called. You moved out? He asked. He was used to my silence on the phone and didn't wait for an answer. He laughed. You're really something, Alara. I told you it's just for show. Let's go get the paperwork done tomorrow, and that'll be the end of it. I held the phone, my throat tight. Alara, don't worry. It's just a performance, he said again, his voice coaxing. I managed a quiet, okay. Cheers erupted on his end of the call. I hung up and sent him the appointment time on WeChat. The next morning, I woke up early. Liam, predictably, showed up late, likely delayed by Chloe. I noticed a faint smudge of pink lipstick on the corner of his lip. He pretended it was nothing, and I pretended not to see it. The process went faster than I had expected. In less than 5 minutes, it was all over. He playfully kicked my calf as we walked out. Huh, I'll give you a surprise tomorrow, he said with a wink. I tucked the divorce certificate safely into my bag. Liam, I said, looking directly at him. It was one of the first times I had used his name since we were married. I had always called him husband. Are you free tonight? There's something I want to talk to you about. He looked surprised. Then his familiar peach blossom eyes curled into a smile, and he lightly flicked an imaginary speck of dust from his sleeve. I thought to myself that no matter what kind of person Liam had become this past year, I couldn't bring myself to completely deny the Liam of the past. I was still grateful for all the years he had been by my side, for the care he had once shown me. Truthfully, I never planned to leave without saying a proper goodbye. But that night, it rained. A storm rolled in with loud thunder and sharp flashes of lightning. I had always been afraid of nights like this. The car accident had also happened in a heavy storm, just like this one. I stood under the awning of the restaurant where we were supposed to meet, trembling, trying to hold myself together while waiting for him. I even felt a trace of fear, a fear that when he finally showed up, the defenses I had painstakingly built up over the past month would collapse, and I would break down crying in his arms, just like I always had before. But he never came. Instead, he called. The moment I answered, I heard loud music and laughter in the background. His voice was slightly slurred when he spoke. Redemption. I was so sick of her for all those years. If my mom hadn't forced me, I would have never married her. You know why we got married so early? Because she wouldn't let me touch her. I was just curious. She has that speech problem when she gets emotional, right? So, what's she like in bed? Can she even make a sound? It felt like something deep inside me was being ripped apart all over again. On a stormy night like this, I just wanted to vanish. I didn't want anyone to see how pathetic I looked. But no matter where I turned, there was only rain, thunder, lightning, and the echo of his ridicule. Then Julian called. Ilara, he said, his voice so calm and steady that it somehow made all the noise around me fade away. You are crying. I wanted to deny it, but I couldn't get a single word out. As if responding to his voice, my tears finally spilled over, flooding down my face like a broken dam. Wait there, he said quietly. I will come pick you up. At that same time, in a private room somewhere else in the city, the second young master of the Liam family was single again. A group of young heirs had thrown him a bachelor party, drinking themselves into a stupor. Most had already passed out. At some unknown hour, someone groggily pulled out their phone. Big news, the guy slurred, his voice startling a few others awake. The heir of the Julian family, he's actually here, in this city. Flew back overnight on a private jet. Someone waved a hand dismissively. No way. I thought he was still recovering overseas. Nobody's seen him in 10 years. No, really, it's on the trending searches. The phone was passed around, and the atmosphere in the room buzzed with a sudden excitement. It is him, and he's hugging a girl, someone exclaimed. They say he came back just to take her abroad. That was so fast the PR team didn't even have time to respond. Let me see. Wait a second. This girl, why does she look so familiar? Liam! Hey, Liam! Someone nudged the man who was staring into his drink. Look at the girl in Julian's arms. Doesn't she look a lot like your wife? Liam had actually woken up a while ago, but he was never interested in gossip about the Julian family. With a frown, he took the phone. My wife? She wouldn't even dare leave this city, let alone go abroad, he muttered, unimpressed. But the second his eyes focused on the photo, he froze. It was pouring rain at the airport. Under a large black umbrella, a tall, slender man stood with a cold, determined expression, shielding a girl in his arms. Not a single inch of her was left exposed to the rain or the flashing cameras, but Liam recognized that figure, that hair, that posture. He knew with a sickening certainty that it was Ilara. He threw the phone down. How could Ilara possibly know someone like Julian? She had even invited him to dinner tonight. She must have been missing him like crazy, especially since they hadn't seen each other for nearly a month. Liam grabbed a cigarette, lit it, and then picked up his own phone. He found Ilara's number and was just about to call, but then he noticed the time. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. He hesitated. Forget it. She's probably asleep, he muttered, but he dialed anyway. A cool, robotic voice replied, Sorry, the number you have dialed does not exist. After the car accident all those years ago, I had never left my hometown. Just the thought of getting into a car for a long trip or boarding a plane made my heart pound with a familiar and suffocating fear. The idea of going somewhere completely unfamiliar, where I knew no one and nothing, filled me with anxiety. Now, I sat beside Julian in the back of a car, nervously clutching my hands in my lap. He was tall, and even when seated, his head was still higher than mine. He looked serious, barely responding to the driver, with more than a quiet word or two. He carried himself with the quiet authority of someone important, perhaps a celebrity. Back at the airport, the reporters had completely surrounded us, shouting his name, Julian! The truth was, I hadn't even known that was his real name until the first time we spoke on the phone. Paris. It was a place I had never dared to dream of visiting. And now I was in a car, in that very city with him beside me. Suddenly, he reached into his pocket and handed me something. Do you want this? He asked. It was a piece of candy. The wrapper had a small pink bunny printed on it. My mind instantly drifted back 2 years. Back then, my online friend Angel would talk to me endlessly. Sister, do you like candy? She had once asked. I just had one that is so delicious. It's soft and chewy and smells like peaches. If you want to try it, send me your address and I'll mail you a whole bag. She had replied with a string of English addresses. That was the first time she had ever truly paid attention to me. The strange feeling of being in a new place vanished all at once. I had been searching for this specific rabbit shaped candy for a long time. I had eventually found it by tracking down the original image from his WeChat profile picture. All I had wanted was to do something to make this withdrawn, quiet online friend smile. Shall I unwrap it for you? He asked. His voice was soft, his tone gentle, and there was a warmth in his eyes that made him seem easy to approach. Before I could even nod, he had already unwrapped the candy with practiced hands and handed it to me. I placed it in my mouth, and the familiar sweet peach flavor melted on my tongue. It was comforting, like a distant memory that had suddenly come back to life. My whole body relaxed, as if every cell had been waiting for this exact feeling. I was living in a completely unfamiliar place. Julian had arranged for me to stay at his apartment, though he was rarely home, always busy with work. After I adjusted to the time difference in that first week, he finally sat down and had a proper conversation with me. Elara, what kind of work would you like to do? The question caught me completely off guard. Liam had never let me work. He used to say, "You get so nervous you can't even speak clearly. What job could you possibly handle? Just stay home, grow some flowers, take care of the garden. It's not like you need the money." But Julian just handed me a cup of coffee and said calmly, "You haven't even started your language lessons yet, but there are a lot of Chinese people in Paris." I looked down and nervously clasped my hands. "Can I really do it?" Julian raised an eyebrow. "How will you know if you never try?" So I gave it a shot. I ended up finding a job teaching a Chinese American child how to speak Mandarin. It was nothing fancy, just basic tutoring, but for the first time in a long, long while, I felt genuinely happy. I was so happy that I wanted to share the news with my friends from university. Just as I logged into WeChat, messages poured in like falling snow. "Elara, where are you? Liam is going crazy looking for you." Liam was looking for me. On the night I left with Julian, I was in no condition to handle anything. Julian had helped me take care of everything. All the documents and assets that were meant to be returned to Liam were delivered to his family's old estate. The property matters were passed to the lawyer I had previously hired, and so were the divorce arrangements. As for my phone number, Julian had simply canceled the card. If Liam had anything to say, he could talk to my lawyer, not to me. I was deleting the messages one by one when a call suddenly came in. I answered it by accident. "Elara, what the hell are you doing?" Liam's voice burst through the phone. "Was your phone stolen? If it was, don't you know how to buy a new one? If you bought a new one, why haven't you called me? You can recite my number backward, can't you?" I stayed silent, holding the phone tightly. "And where did you go? Why did you send all those things to the old house? Do you still want to celebrate our third anniversary or not?" "Liam," I said, and his name left my lips more smoothly than I expected. "We are already divorced." Before he could say another word, I hung up. Messages followed immediately. "Elara, how many times have I told you it was an act? Don't you get it? What's your new number? Send it to me. Add me back on WeChat. We need to talk. Do you still want to contact me or not?" I blocked his number without another word. Then, I went through my contact list and blocked all of Liam's friends too. Maybe it was the new environment, or maybe distance really does make it easier to let go. On the way back from my tutoring session, I bought a small cake. Julian and I had known each other online for more than 2 years. Once the awkwardness of our first in-person meeting passed, I grew more familiar with him. I even knew what kind of desserts he liked. Lately, he had been coming home more often. I figured he would be back today, but I didn't expect him to be home so early. Just as I took out my keys, the door swung open. Julian was standing there in a crisp white shirt, holding a fluffy little animal in his arms, a puppy. I was so surprised that I forgot I was holding the cake and reached out to touch the puppy. "Is it yours? You never mentioned it? Or is it for a friend? It's adorable." "It's for you," Julian said as he gently closed the door behind him. "For me?" I asked instinctively. "Really?" Liam had never let me have a pet. He always said that dogs would leave fur all over the place, that they smelled. But Julian just said, "Why not?" It felt like a small firework had lit up in my chest. I was going to have my own puppy again. I brought you a little cake, I said, handing it to him before heading to the sofa to play with the puppy. My first dog had been a birthday gift from my parents. My brother had helped pick it out. Back then, everything was simple, and I never seemed to have any real worries. Maybe that's why, to this day, seeing a puppy always makes me feel like my troubles have disappeared. I looked up. Julian was in a good mood, too. He sat beside me, eating the small cake with a quiet smile on his lips. "You've got some cream on your clothes, Angel," I said gently without thinking. I stood up, reaching for a tissue, and then I froze. I had let my guard down so much that I had accidentally called him by his old username. Julian's voice drew nearer, and so did his breath. It was too close. Startled, the puppy let out a soft bark and scampered away. I looked up slightly and saw his refined, striking face, just inches from mine. Beneath my hand, which was still reaching for the spot of cream on his shirt, I felt the firm tension of his muscles. For a second, all I could hear was the pounding of my own heartbeat. I tried to lean back, but Julian gently held the back of my head and kissed me without hesitation. "Alara, did you forget something?" he whispered against my lips. My heart raced wildly, almost as if it might burst. My face burned, and I felt lightheaded, dizzy from the kiss. Then he kissed me again, this time slowly, tenderly. His voice was low and husky as he asked, "So when are we registering? Today or tomorrow?" I had no idea what was happening anymore. My head was spinning, and it felt like night had already fallen. Without thinking, I said, "Tomorrow?" And the next day, Julian really did take me to the city hall. The man officiating, someone they said was the mayor of Paris, spoke a lot of French that I could barely understand. I just kept nodding. With a wave of his hand, he issued us a marriage certificate. I was nervous, yes, but more than that, I was thrilled. People with the same soul understand each other. I had always believed that Julian would not be the wrong choice. The only thing that dampened my happiness was a phone call. Somehow, Liam had managed to find my new number in Paris. He even used a French number to call me. "You really went to Paris," he said, the moment the line connected. He recognized my voice right away. "Alara, since when did you learn to be angry like this? It's been a month, and you're still not over it." I took a deep breath, trying to keep my emotions in check. "Liam, stop interfering with my life." "Your life? What kind of life can you even have?" "Don't think I don't know. You went to Paris for that Angel, right? That little sister who eats candy all day. You really had the nerve to go and burden her." I had never hidden anything from Liam, not about what I did and not about the people I met. But none of that was his concern anymore. "Damn it, I am your husband. How can it have nothing to do with me?" he shouted. "I'm telling you, come back now." I ended the call before he could finish. Then a message came in. "Not coming back? Fine. You think you're so tough. Let's see how long you can rely on that little sister of yours." I never thought Liam could be this petty and bitter. But then again, why was I surprised? This was the man who had cheated during our marriage and then asked me to fake a divorce for him. I had been blind, foolishly clinging to a childhood bond that no longer meant anything. That night, messages from my university friends flooded in. Most of them sent me screenshots of Liam's social media. "What's going on between you and Liam?" they asked. He had posted a photo with Chloe, the two of them looking close and affectionate. In the caption, he had publicly announced their relationship. I didn't bother explaining anything. I simply posted a picture of my new marriage certificate. Immediately, the university roommate group chat exploded. "Damn, Alara, you finally woke up," one of them wrote. "I always knew there was something off about Liam. He never introduced you to his friends, and he never posted anything about you, right? And he always brought up your aphasia, but you talk just fine with us. It was only when he was around that you seemed to get too nervous to speak." Looking back, the signs had been there all along. A few days later, the group chat exploded again. Is he insane? Apparently, Liam had sent them all the same series of messages. A picture of a diamond ring, a screenshot of a chat with Chloe, and a strange message that read, "Giving you a surprise in 3 days. Are you free?" Then, another message came through, one that was clearly meant for me. Tell Alara, in 3 days, it's my mother's birthday party. If she doesn't come back, I'll find someone else to be my mother's daughter-in-law. I really thought he had gone mad. Just ignore him, my friend said, and I fully intended to. But then something unexpected happened. That evening, Julian returned home with 2 large suitcases. Let's go back to your country for a while, he said casually. I stood there, stunned. The marriage certificate needs to be notarized back home, he added, packing some documents into a briefcase. And I want to introduce you to my relatives and friends. My first instinct was to ask him if I could really do it. After all, Liam had always avoided taking me to public events. He used to say I would stutter or embarrass him. He made me feel small, like I was someone who should be hidden away. But Julian paused what he was doing, walked over to me, and cupped my face with one hand. His dark eyes looked deep into mine. Ilara, there is nothing you can't do. Warmth spread from my chest through my whole body. So this is what it felt like, being in a relationship that builds you up instead of tearing you down. Julian said he had to stop in my old city first to take care of some business matters. That worked perfectly, as I also needed to meet with my lawyer. So we set our first stop back home there. Unlike the heavy rain on the day I left, the sun was bright when we landed. Julian kept a low profile, wearing sunglasses and guiding me through the VIP channel. After all these days, I already knew who he really was. The Julian family's power struggle 12 years ago had dominated newspaper headlines for months. No one had expected the final winner to be a young man who hadn't even graduated from university. And no one had expected that once Julian took over the family business, he would rise to power with such astonishing speed, using bold moves and unconventional strategies. In just 2 years, the already massive Julian family empire had grown even bigger. I had heard a few things about him before, but I was young back then. He had been out of the country for so many years that I had barely remembered his name. Fortunately, we didn't run into any reporters this time. Julian and I made it to the hotel without any problems. He went to his company's local branch, and I stayed behind to take a nap. After I woke up, I headed to the law firm. Ilara, your personal assets are being processed step by step, just as you instructed, the lawyer told me. These documents need your signature. Please take a moment to look them over, and this is the original contract for the property you sold. You can take it with you. Everything related to my personal assets was going smoothly, but then the lawyer's expression suddenly grew hesitant. Ilara, you still have a few properties that are considered marital assets with Liam. According to the divorce agreement, the division should be equal, but he's refusing to cooperate. I raised an eyebrow. The lawyer cleared his throat awkwardly. He said, you two, you haven't divorced yet. I nodded and sighed. I'll talk to him. After our last argument, I had asked my roommates to block all of Liam's accounts, but he kept creating new ones, adding me every day under different names. Eventually, I accepted one of his requests. Are you free tonight? Come out and meet me. He didn't reply immediately. I could see the typing. Bubble appear and disappear for a long time before the message finally came through. So you finally decided to come back to the country. What a shame. I already promised Chloe I'd take her shopping tonight. I'm not free. I stared at his message, almost laughing from the absurdity of it all. If he refused to cooperate, I could always file with the court for compulsory enforcement. But my trip back this time was short, and I wanted to keep things simple. Perhaps noticing that I hadn't responded, he sent another message. If you're still thinking about a reconciliation, there's a chance. Come and admit your mistake at my mother's birthday banquet tomorrow. He even included the hotel location. He was completely out of his mind. I blocked him again. Just then, Julian sent me a message too. I've arranged for someone to deliver several sets of dresses. Pick one. I'll introduce you to some friends tomorrow. I was going to meet Julian's friends. My heart skipped a beat, and I quickly pushed away all the frustration Liam had brought me. I took a taxi back to the hotel. What Julian had prepared was far more than a few outfits. Rows of clothes racks were lined up in the suite, along with shoes, accessories, and even a team of makeup artists. Seeing how much effort he had put into this, I didn't dare be careless. I tried on outfit after outfit, spending almost the entire night making a choice. In the end, I picked a dress that was elegant but modest. Thankfully, Julian didn't come back to the hotel that night. He hadn't returned to the country in 10 years, and this rare visit to the local branch showed just how busy he really was. The next day, I slept until noon. After getting dressed and having my makeup done, I received a message from Julian. I've asked the driver to pick you up. As I got into the car, an unknown number called. I had a strong feeling it was Liam again. I pressed the decline button without hesitation. He called again. I declined again. Finally, I blocked the number. But when the car pulled to a stop, I was stunned. Liam was standing right in front of the hotel entrance, making call after call on his phone, his face a mask of frustration. After a moment, he threw his phone to the ground in a fit of rage. I looked up at the hotel sign. It was the same place he had mentioned yesterday. Julian called just in time. "You've arrived? Do you want me to come down and get you?" His voice was always so calm and reassuring. I looked at Liam's furious figure coldly. "No need. I'll come up myself." He seemed to have heard my voice. He looked over, and for a moment, his expression was hard to read. A mixture of surprise, joy, and a bit of suppressed anger. He kicked his broken phone aside. "Alara," was all he said. Then he turned his face away and muttered, "Let's go." There was a trace of pride in his voice. "I knew you would come." He walked ahead of me. This entire five-star hotel was probably reserved for the party in advance. Suddenly, I understood who those friends Julian had mentioned really were. Liam noticed I wasn't following and slowed his pace. "Fine, I'll admit my mistake first." "All right?" His voice softened. "You just don't like Chloe, I get it. I won't see her again, okay?" "You're being too dramatic. She didn't do anything to you." I took a deep breath, trying to steady my emotions. When we reached the ballroom on the second floor, I saw some familiar faces from his circle. "Hey, look who's back. Liam is really amazing. He tamed the runaway bird again." "What is she doing here dressed like that? It's kind of funny." "Liam, are you really bringing her in front of so many people today? Aren't you afraid there are important guests here?" Liam glared at them. "Get lost," he hissed. He leaned closer to me. "Good job dressing up for once. Just stay close to me and smile. Don't say anything, no matter what happens. Got it?" He reached out his hand. "Take it." I stood still and looked at him. "Liam," I said quietly, "I didn't come here for you." He chuckled. "Come on. What are you still pretending for? If not for me, then who did you come for?" At that exact moment, the doors to the inner hall opened. I saw Julian immediately. It wasn't his event, but he was sitting at the center table. On either side of him were Liam's mother and his older brother, the one who actually managed the family business. Other people were either sitting or standing, sipping drinks, or whispering quietly among themselves. Yet somehow, they had all formed a loose semicircle, with Julian as the undeniable center of gravity. Liam leaned in and said in a low voice, "See him? The one in the middle? My mother invited him here with great effort. His wife will be joining him soon, too. You had better behave. If you embarrass the Liam family, neither my mother nor my brother will let you off." He reached out to grab my hand, but I jerked it away sharply. "Ilara!" he called out, louder than he meant to. Heads turned. Even Julian looked over, his eyes darkening. "Liam, what are you doing?" his mother asked. She used a calm voice, but her gaze was filled with disapproval directed squarely at me. Liam's older brother glanced at me, frowned slightly, then turned towards Julian with a polite smile. "Is Mrs. Julian arriving soon? Shall I go down to meet her?" Around us, people whispered under their breath. Liam gritted his teeth and hissed at me. "I told you not to make a scene. Are you happy now? This is your first time meeting the entire Liam family. Do you really want to leave this kind of impression?" Yes. In the 3 years we had been married, this was the first time I had ever met all of Liam's relatives. Then Julian spoke. "Ilara, come here." There was an empty seat right between him and Liam's mother. Everyone fell silent. Liam stared at Julian in disbelief. His mother and brother were frozen in shock. I took a single step forward. "Let me introduce her," Julian said, his voice calm but carrying clearly through the now silent banquet hall. He took my hand, kissed the back of it gently, and turned to the stunned crowd. "My wife." The hall fell completely silent. It was as if time had paused. No one moved. No one even breathed. Only Julian, as composed as ever, stood unwavering under the weight of their collective stare. "Elara," he asked softly, turning to me, "do you want to say something?" All eyes turned to me. My palms were damp with sweat, and my heart was pounding against my ribs. I looked at Julian. He squeezed my hand reassuringly, met my gaze, and gave me a small, almost imperceptible nod. "There is nothing you can't do." I took a deep breath, looked toward Liam's mother, and said, "Auntie." My voice trembled slightly, but I forced myself to go on. "Liam and I have been divorced for quite some time. I'm not sure why he never told you." I turned to Liam. "Liam, I never believed that marriage or divorce was something to pretend about. There is no future between us." Then I faced the crowd and added, "I am legally married to Julian now. From this moment on, I have no connection whatsoever with the Liam family." Liam stared at our intertwined hands. He stumbled back a step, stunned, as if reality had finally struck him, too fast and too hard to process. Julian stood as well. Calmly, he picked up a fresh napkin from the table and meticulously wiped the back of my hand, the one Liam had tried to grab. "My wife values peace," he said, his voice even and cold, "and I protect what is mine. From today on, I do not want anyone disturbing her in any form, Mrs. Liam. Am I understood?" Liam's mother blinked rapidly, then nodded again and again, visibly flustered. "Yes, of course. My apologies for the trouble." Julian placed the napkin down, took my hand again, and led me out of the hall. It wasn't until we stepped into the elevator that my heart started to slow down. My legs gave out slightly, and I nearly stumbled. Julian wrapped his arm around my waist and held me steady against the cool metal wall. "You made quite a scene," I whispered, trying to catch my breath. "I had to," he replied, lifting my face gently, "to keep Liam from ever trying to find you again." He looked at me for a long moment, then a slow smile spread across his face. "You look beautiful today." I wasn't sure whether he meant my appearance or the words I had finally found the strength to say. He leaned in and kissed me softly. "Elara, Elara," Liam's voice rang out from the hallway. We realized then that we had been so caught up in our conversation that we hadn't pressed a floor button. The elevator doors slid open again, revealing Liam staring straight at us. Julian moved in front of me, a protective shield. "Is there something wrong?" he asked, his voice dripping with ice. I saw my own flushed face reflected in the mirrored elevator wall. Outside stood Liam, frozen, his face a twisted mask of disbelief and desperation. Without a moment's hesitation, I reached forward and pressed the button for the basement parking garage. Just before the doors closed, Julian gently tilted my chin up and kissed me again, this time more boldly, more possessively, right in front of Liam's shattered gaze. They said the Liam family later locked Liam up, took away his phone and computer, and cut off all his contact with the outside world. He wouldn't be released until he swore an oath that he would never disturb me again. I returned to the capital city with Julian. At first, we considered notarizing our French marriage certificate, but Julian found the process too troublesome. So instead, we simply went to the Civil Affairs Bureau and got a new local certificate. I met his friends and family too. As the rumors went, Julian was the eldest son and grandson. His mother had passed away when he was young, and his father had died of a sudden heart attack when Julian was only 18. His uncles had no real influence in the family anymore and treated me with a surprising degree of respect. His friends were warm and welcoming. There was only one exception, probably his best friend, who laughed and teased Julian openly, saying it was ridiculous that a man in his 30s was still a virgin. To my surprise, I realized it might be true. Even after half a month of marriage, Julian hadn't touched me, not even once. I couldn't help but wonder, did he not know how? Or was he afraid I would notice that he didn't know how? That night, as we lay in bed, the atmosphere felt strange. Part of me wanted to reach out to him, but another part told me to hold back. What if it wasn't that he didn't know, but that he simply didn't want to? But that couldn't be true. When he kissed me, I felt it, his sincerity, his longing. Julian was a busy man, always surrounded by responsibilities. Maybe this was just normal, and maybe, I told myself, even if it wasn't normal, we already had the marriage certificate. I would never hate him for it. What are you thinking about? Julian asked gently as he turned around and pulled me into his arms. I shook my head, trying to hide the storm of emotions inside me. He lowered his head and kissed me. Lately, he had been kissing me more often, and each time the kisses lasted longer, growing deeper and more tender. I just want to give you more time, he whispered, his breath warm against my cheek. Time to accept me. Under the covers, the air felt warmer, charged with unspoken emotion. Julian's breathing grew uneven, and my own heart pounded so hard that it made it difficult to speak. But then, I glanced toward the foot of the bed, where our little puppy lay curled up, sleeping peacefully. Julian hadn't forgotten to bring him along when we returned to the country. I thought of the soft lavender sheets we had picked out together, the tulips blooming quietly in the yard outside. He remembered every detail, every small thing I had ever said over the years. I like you, Julian, I said softly, lifting my head to press my lips to his. He froze for a moment, startled, but then he quickly responded with the same passion I had felt in his kisses. That night felt endless, and the morning seemed to come far too soon. But things don't always go as smoothly as we hope. At a birthday party a few days later, there were too many people, too many cameras, and too many whispers. Soon, under every interview video of Julian, vague and biting remarks began to appear online. Tisk, tisk, he looks like a decent CEO, but he's actually heartless. Treats his own wife like that. Wait, he's married? What happened to his wife? I guess it's safer for her to keep a low profile. Some even started calling me the bride he stole. Julian was unfazed. The more they try to censor things like this, he told me calmly, the worse it gets. But I couldn't pretend it didn't bother me. It felt like a sharp fishbone stuck in my throat. That evening, Julian had to work late again. We were set to return to France in 3 days, so I stayed home to pack. I was halfway through folding clothes when I heard loud voices coming from outside in the yard. My wife and I were childhood sweethearts, over 20 years together. How could she just disappear like that? Look at this photo. I froze. The voice. Liam, I whispered. He had brought a group of live-streaming internet influencers to our doorstep. The Julian family thinks they are above the law. Please, everyone, be my witnesses. I must see my wife today. I grabbed the thick stack of printed documents I had prepared weeks before and ran downstairs. I had completely forgotten that I had sent all the house staff out on errands that day. I was the only one at home. I also forgot what the reporters had done after the car accident all those years ago, how their endless, intrusive interviews had caused a second wave of damage to my already shattered mind. But sometimes when you want to protect someone, you discover a strength you never knew you had. I threw open the front door. Elara! Liam looked stunned, as if he hadn't actually expected me to come out at all. Before he could say another word, I stepped forward and slapped him hard across the face. Liam, I said, my voice cold and clear, take a good look at yourself. Who gave you the confidence to think that I would never leave you? I slapped him again. Who gave you the nerve to slander others and spread these lies? I threw the printed chat logs at his feet. Read these. Look at what you and Chloe did. Stop polluting the words childhood sweethearts. Finally, I tossed a small digital audio player at him. It was playing the recording of the phone call, the one that had broken me on that rainy night I left. I was so sick of her for years. If my mom hadn't forced me, I would have never married her. Guess why we married so early? Because she wouldn't even let me touch her. I was just curious. What's she like in bed? Can she even make a sound? Liam's face turned pale. He scrambled to press the pause button, but it was too late. The live stream had already been cut off by the platforms, but the footage was already out. Screenshots of the chat logs that Chloe had sent me were already everywhere online. People were stunned by the chaotic mess between the two families. Soon, Chloe, who had kept a low profile all this time, was fully exposed. Netizens found out that she had been living in a luxury home Liam provided, wearing designer clothes he bought, all while pretending to be a wealthy heiress herself and flirting with other rich young men. Julian had never paid much attention to the Liam family, focusing only on his own work. But after this incident, he ended all business ties with them. 2 days later, Liam's mother called me. We didn't keep a close enough eye on Liam. I'm so sorry, Ilara. For the sake of all these years, could you please? I cut her off. You did look after me for many years, yes. But in return, I handed over my parents' entire company to the Liam family, bit by bit. I have never owed you anything. Julian and I left as planned. The day we departed, a light rain was falling. As we reached the airport security checkpoint, a sudden stir broke out. Out of nowhere, Liam appeared, soaked in rain and covered in mud. He looked completely disheveled. Ilara! Ilara! He shouted, grabbing my suitcase. The floor was slippery from the rain he'd tracked in, and he fell to his knees at my feet. Please, don't go! Julian gave him a single glance, his expression filled with clear repulsion. Without saying a word, he looked at the airport staff nearby. In an instant, the crowd that had gathered with their phones out, eager to film and gossip, was quietly and efficiently dispersed. Liam clung to my suitcase. Ilara, please listen. There were too many misunderstandings. That call, it was Chloe. She was the one who called you, not me. I didn't know anything about it. I was only talking big that night because I was drunk. I never actually thought you were annoying. I really did like you. When we got married, I said those things to Chloe because I completely lost my head. Yes, I was foolish and I regret it. She was clever. She knew exactly what to say. She seduced me. I never truly wanted a divorce. Didn't I tell you I was planning a surprise? I was going to propose to you again the very next day. Ilara, it was all just one big misunderstanding. I had even planned to go to your apartment that night, but my friends dragged me out drinking instead. It was always someone else's fault. I looked down at his tear-streaked face. The condoms in your pocket were put there by others? You were pushed onto that bed with her by someone else? The cruel, humiliating things you said to me. Those words came from your own mouth, and yet you speak as if something else took over your body. What surprised me most was that I said all of this in one breath, without even pausing. Liam, you just assumed I was too weak to hold you back. You looked down on me, you dismissed me, and you belittled me every chance you got. Mocking and controlling me became the only way for you to feel alive in your otherwise empty existence, didn't it? The Liam family has 2 sons. The eldest took over the business entirely. The younger one was carefree, irresponsible, always living in someone else's shadow. It's not that you never wanted to succeed, but you couldn't. The only story you have to tell is that you once stood beside a girl, made her trust you, rely on you, and love you. And then you destroyed all of it. Let go, Liam. Let's not destroy what little is left of our childhood memories in such an ugly way. His hand trembled violently. Then he let go. Ilara, just give me one more chance. This time, I promise. He reached for my hand as he spoke, but I pulled away before he could touch me. You're filthy, I said softly. His words caught in his throat. I grabbed my suitcase and turned around. Not far ahead, Julian was waiting for me. I walked up and looped my arm through his. Suddenly, a desperate, broken cry broke out behind me, but I never looked back. After that day, I didn't see Liam again for a very long time. Occasionally, I heard bits and pieces from my old roommate about what happened to him and Chloe. Her scandal became a major incident. Several wealthy, second-generation heirs, including Liam, sued her together. She was expelled from school and never received her diploma. I never followed up on the lawsuit, so I don't know how it ultimately ended. Liam was kicked out of the Liam family. Perhaps it was to curry favor with Julian. Or maybe Liam's mother's business was failing and she took it out on him. All his credit cards were frozen. Every property under his name was reclaimed. He was left with nothing and was forced to find a job on his own. The same man who once casually spent millions on custom clothing now hesitated to buy a cheap bottle of wine. Some said they saw him and Chloe screaming at each other on the street, fighting like strangers. but people rarely pay attention to those who have fallen from grace, no matter how bloody their battles are. My life, in contrast, was moving forward. I had started with one student, then two, then four. Soon, I had enough to open a small language class. My own language skills were improving too. The 15 different tenses in French still gave me a headache, but at least I could handle everyday conversations. That first spring festival in France, Julian took me skiing. We raced down the Alps, the wind biting against my cheeks as I screamed with excitement. That night, we lay together in a hotel deep in a quiet valley, counting the stars outside our window. Every star represents someone who once loved us, Julian said quietly. Will you ever tell me the story of Angel? I asked him gently. Later that year, Julian brought me back to our home country, to the capital city, to a house that had been locked up for many years. Inside that house was a room filled with drawings of pink rabbits. It had belonged to his younger sister. She was 10 years younger than him and loved rabbits, especially pink ones. She used to say she came from the rabbit planet, sent here to save the world. But she didn't seem to be that lucky. Their mother had died the day she was born. When she was 8, their father passed away too. From that point on, she watched Julian struggle with greedy uncles and calculating elders, forced to take on responsibilities far beyond his years. She never wanted to be a burden, so even when the household staff mistreated her, she said nothing. When classmates mocked her for her own aphasia, she just smiled at Julian and said nothing. It was never Julian who had trouble speaking, it was her. To hide her struggles from him, she would write him notes. Brother, school is really fun. I won't come home for the summer break. Take care of yourself, brother, comma. I made a new friend today. It was a happy day. Brother, I learned how to bake little cakes. I left some in the fridge for you. Remember to eat them. But the last note she left read, Brother, Earth is too bitter. I'm going back to the rabbit planet. Don't worry. I'll come back to visit you often. Julian had been overwhelmed. School and work were both relentless battlegrounds. He had no time to stop, no time to look back. And when all the noise finally faded, what he found was her cold body at the bottom of the lake behind their house. She had tried. She really had tried to save herself. She had joined many mutual aid groups online, some for people battling depression, others for those living with aphasia. Over time, quite a few people added her as a friend, but most of them were already overwhelmed with their own struggles. People who could barely take care of themselves had little strength left to support others. After exchanging a few messages over 2 or 3 days, most would quietly disappear. It wasn't until many years later that I stumbled across her profile, a soft pink rabbit icon. I clicked on it and sent a friend request. Sister, please add me? Are you busy today? It's another sunny day. Could I be lucky enough to become your friend? Julian used to say I was too noisy. He had guarded his sister's WeChat account for years, never deleting it, quietly hoping that one day she might return. But she never came back. Instead, he received a friend request from a chatty stranger. He accepted. He began watching her share little pieces of her life each day. Photos, messages, cheerful updates. And sometimes he wondered if this girl had shown up 10 years earlier. Would his sister's story have ended differently? Later, that thought changed. Could she be a gift my sister sent me from somewhere far, far away? Living far from his hometown, Julian carried a heavy sense of guilt over his sister's death. Every day he tried to make amends in small ways. The voice on the other end of his phone became a thread of warmth, a splash of color in his otherwise lonely, monochrome world. But there was one problem. That warm, gentle voice belonged to another man's wife. You are my wife now, Julian whispered, looking up at the brightest star next to the moon from the balcony of our home in Paris. Do you think it's true? That she sent you to me? That she has forgiven me? She never blamed you, I replied gently, brushing away the single tear that had gathered at the corner of his eye. She was an angel. She came to save the world. She saved you. And she saved me too. Julian pulled me into his arms and held me close. Alara, I love you. I love you more than anything. The deepest sorrow in life is loving someone who ends up with the wrong person, But the greatest blessing is loving someone and having them right there in your arms.